Hello everyone, I am Dr. Rajkumar Sharma, Consultant, Faculty of Political Science, IGNOU, and today we will be discussing the last 4 chapters in MGP 001. The name of the course is Gandhi, the Man and His Times, and we are discussing Unit 13, 14, 15 and 16, and they mainly cover Gandhi's interactions with different ideologies within Congress, which will include moderates, the extremists and the revolutionaries. Then we will also cover Gandhi's relations and interactions, his ideological interactions with different individuals like Jinnah, Savarkar, Nehru, Tagore and Ambedkar. And in the end, we will also discuss Gandhi's relations with the leftists. So to begin with, we start with moderates. Gandhi's relationship with Congress in general. So as you must be aware by now that Indian National Congress was established in 1885 and it had 3 big aims. The first aim of Congress was to unite the political workers across India. This was the first aim because India is a big country and there has to be an ideological unity among people. So this was the first aim. The second one was to promote national consciousness among the people. And the third one was to shape public opinion for India's interest. And at that time, India's interest was to overthrow the British rule through peaceful means. So these were the 3 big aims for which the Indian National Congress was established. Now within Congress, there were different ideologies. Now the first one was the moderates. Congress had been under the influence of moderates since 1885. Since the very year it was formed, Congress had been under the influence of the moderates. Now, the moderates were influenced by Western political ideas and the practices. At that time, liberalism was making big waves in the Western world, and the moderates were influenced by the idea of liberalism. And if you see the prominent leaders of moderates, they were Dadabhai Naoroji, Badruddin Tayyabji, Firoz Shah Mehta, Surendranath Banerjee, R.C. Dutt, and Gopal Krishnan Gokhale. So these were the prominent leaders, moderate faces within Congress. Now the liberal philosophy or the moderates within Congress, they emphasized on a number of things. The topmost priority for them was the dignity of individual, because as you must be aware that liberalism talks about individuals. Because if you see the type of states, there is a little difference, and that difference is that socialist states would talk about the state first, society first, and then individual will be seen as a part of society. But in the countries where liberalism dominates, there you will find there is more emphasis on the individuals and the rights of individuals. So the first priority of the moderates was the dignity of the individual. They also focused on right to freedom, then equality of all, irrespective of divisions like caste, sex or creed. Then they also opposed autocratic attitude of the British government, because the British government was using high-handed methods against the peaceful means used by the Indian national leaders. Another important philosophy was rule of law and equality before law. And the last thing that the moderates emphasized was secularism, equal respect of all the religions. So this was the basic liberal philosophy under which moderates operated within the Congress. Now moderates also believed that India gained from political connection with the British. So they had this feeling. But that does not mean that they were not patriotic. They did not favor a direct confrontation with the British, and at the same time they demanded Swaraj or self-government. Now what they wanted is that they wanted to promote and consolidate national consciousness in Indians before challenging the British rule in India. As I just mentioned, India has always been a big country and there has to be certain unity among the people. So the idea of moderates was that we should first consolidate and promote a consciousness within the Indians before we challenge the autocratic rule of the British. Now, if you see historian Bipan Chandra, he has summarized the methods of the moderates, and he says that constitutional agitation within the 4 walls of law and slow, orderly political progress. So this was in a nutshell the method used by the moderates. Now, within the moderates, one of the influential leaders was Gopal Krishnan Gokhale. Now, Gokhale was exposed to the Western political thought, and he was particularly influenced by the writers and political philosophers like John Stuart Mill, Edmund Burke, and John Bright. So these were the people whose philosophy he had read. And Gandhi's concern for social reform is a legacy of moderates, because if you see, Gandhi had started constructive program which flows from the social reform legacy of the moderates. Now, Gandhi also considered Gokhale as his political guru, and he also, both of them, they shared this belief that there has to be spiritualization of politics. Politics should have a soul. That means morality is equally important in politics. And they also agreed on the objective of communal harmony between different religions within India. And they also supported universal education, because education was the primary weapon through which there was a chance to make people more conscious, for which they had to have education. So these were the ideas on which both Gandhi and Gokhale agreed. But at the same time, there were differences between the two. For one, Gokhale favored modern technology, while Gandhiji was not exactly in favor of machines and technology. And also, Gokhale worked for the masses, but not among them. And if you see the method of Gandhi, Gandhi worked for the masses and he also stayed with them. So these were some differences between the two. And when Gokhale died, Gandhiji took a vow to walk barefoot for 1 year. So this shows that there was a very close relationship between Gopal Krishna Gokhale and Gandhi. Now the next ideological dimension within Congress was of extremists, which were whose methods were in contradiction to the methods used by the moderates. Now, extremist ideas, they grew steadily after 1857 in India, and there was a courtesy of works of Vivekananda, Dayanand Saraswati, Aurobindo, and these works, they instilled a sense of pride in Indian civilization. They went on to say that India is a great country, India has always been a great civilization, and by highlighting the good points of Indian civilization, they also instilled a pride within the Indians. Now, there were also some international events because of which there was influence on the extremists within India. The first one was that there was rise of revolutionary activities in countries like Russia and Ireland, and revolutionary methods had an impact because extremists were not exactly in favor of methods used by the moderates. Then another international event was that Italy had been defeated by Ethiopia in 1896, and yet another big event that took place within Asia was that Russia had been defeated by a smaller country like Japan in 1905. And this defeat of Russia at the hands of the Japanese was used by Indian national leaders, and they saw this as a reawakening of Asia. So these were the international events which had an impact on the extremists. And the prominent leaders within the extremists were Bal Gangadhar Tilak, Bipin Chandra Pal, Lala Lajpat Rai, and Aurobindo Ghosh. Now, the extremists, they did not believe in goodness of British rule, unlike the moderates. And they were also aware of the selfish motives of the British and the exploitative nature of the British rule in India. And if you see their programs, they use a number of methods. For example, they use the method of boycott of foreign goods. Then they also promoted Swadeshi at the same time, and they also used non-cooperation as a method against the British government. And within the extremists, the prominent leader was Bal Gangadhar Tilak. And Gandhi himself described as a true disciple of Tilak. And Gandhi used methods that were enunciated by the extremists. For example, Swaraj, Swadeshi, national education, and boycott. So these methods were taken up by Gandhi from the extremists. Gandhi also learnt from Tilak the importance of enlisting masses in a movement against the British, because it was very well known to Gandhi that if you do not get the support from the public, if the public opinion does not support you, then the movement against the British will not be successful. And this lesson was learnt by Gandhiji from Bal Gangadhar Tilak. And at the same time, extremists were against morality in politics, unlike Gandhi, because we have been talking about Gandhi's emphasis on equal emphasis on means and ends. So he used to believe that morality should be practiced within politics, but extremists did not share this view with Gandhi. This is a picture of Tilak on left, and Gokhleong, right? The last ideological dimension within the Congress at that time was revolutionaries. Now, revolutionaries, they emerged in the early years of 20th century, and their prominent leaders were Savarkar, Khudiram Bose, Lala Hardayal, Bhagat Singh, and Chandrasekhar Azad. They used the violent methods, and they also aspired for an armed mass revolution against the British. They also resorted to assassination of unpopular British officials to strike fear within the minds of the British and also ignite a feeling of national consciousness within the Indians. So it has, they wanted to kill two birds with one arrow. But the point is that they could not sustain their activities for long as they failed to get the support from the masses in India and also from other national leaders. And Gandhi in particular did not agree with their methods because Gandhi used to say that ends and means are equally important, and he did not support use of violence against the British. So even if you see, Gandhi had written his book Hind Swaraj to counter the Indian revolutionaries. So these were the three main ideologies within Congress and their interactions with Gandhi. Now, Unit 14 is basically about Jinnah and Savarkar. Some leaders during India's freedom struggle did not agree with Gandhi, and two prominent leaders who had their ideological differences with Gandhi were Jinnah and Savarkar. Now, Jinnah and Savarkar both criticized Gandhi, and their ideology had an overwhelming influence on their respective communities as well. Jinnah stood for Muslim assertion while Savarkar wanted a Hindu Rashtra, and Gandhi was opposed to both of them as he always wanted an amalgamation of both to ensure a peaceful society. So this was the basic difference between the two ideology of Gandhi. In Unit 15, we are exploring Gandhi's relationship with Tagore, Nehru and Ambedkar. Now, Rabindranath Tagore he and Gandhi had a very, very close relationship. Now, Gandhi called him Gurudev while Tagore called him Mahatma. Now, Tagore propounded philosophy of practical humanism. And in this philosophy, he said that humanity is above everything else. This is one. And also, he used to say that there should be illumination of soul by self-realization. And both these points were shared by Gandhi as well. His idea of nationalism of Tagore, it respected the diversity of India. And Gandhi and Tagore, both, they were humanists. They respected human beings. And they both rejected the material civilization of the West. But it was after 1920 that Tagore began to express doubts on Gandhi-led movements. For example, he criticized Gandhi's undue emphasis and blind faith in Charkha that distracted attention from other more important issues. Tagore asked, "Is Charkha alone capable to bring us Swaraj or remove our poverty?" And also, he used to say that more than Charkha, internal union of hearts between the people of India would lead us to Swaraj. Gandhi and Tagore also differed on the efficacy of fasting because Tagore found fasting to be very, very painful. Now, the another relationship that we discuss in this lecture is between Gandhi and Nehru. Now, Jawaharlal Nehru supported liberal nationalism and he was committed to democracy, socialism, just distribution of wealth. At the same time, he also rejected aggressive nationalism based on racial or religious superiority, and he had realized the relevance of a secular state to preserve the composite culture of India, while at the same time he admired Gandhi's work done in South Africa, and in due course of time, Gandhi became a fatherly figure to Nehru. Nehru disapproved of Gandhi's fasts for self-purification. And these are some of the differences between Nehru and Gandhi. At the same time, Gandhi also criticized tone of Nehru's speech and his apparent abandonment of non-violence at Madras Congress session in 1927. Nehru compromised. Despite these differences, Nehru compromised due to two reasons. The first one was that his powerful emotional bond with Gandhi. He used to share a very, very powerful emotional bond with Gandhi, and it was his firm belief that Indian national movement would require leadership under Gandhi to achieve freedom for India. So because of these two beliefs, he compromised, and that is why the differences between Gandhi and Nehru never went out of their limits. But at the same time, despite these differences, there was a large area on which both these agreed, and these areas were Hindu-Muslim unity, composite culture of India, secularism and non-violence. Now, the next leader that we discuss and his relationship with Gandhi is B.R. Ambedkar. Now, B.R. Ambedkar was a social revolutionary, he was a profound scholar and also a charismatic leader. He denounced the caste system and he also fought to establish a society on democratic ideals of liberty, equality, and fraternity. Now, he also believed that eradication of caste system should be central in the social reforms because political reforms are futile without social reforms and equality. Now, these points were very, very critical and they also got reflected later on in the Constitution of India. Now, Ambedkar also gave certain essential conditions for a successful working of a democracy. He said that there should be no glaring inequalities in a democracy as it carries the risk of a revolution by those who are marginalized and deprived of their rights in a democracy. The second one was that there should be statutory provisions to mitigate sufferings of the oppressed classes. The third one is that there should be existence of an effective opposition in a democracy. And lastly, he also said that there should be no tyranny of majority over minority in a democracy. Gandhi's Satyagraha had influenced Ambedkar and it was also reflected in his Mahad Satyagraha. But they also both differed on certain issues. One of them was separate electorate. Gandhi believed that separate electorate would divide the Hindu society from within, and after the Pune Pact, Ambedkar settled for a reserved joint electorate. Ambedkar was against village Swaraj because he used to believe that urbanization was his answer to break the chains of caste system. So there were differences in ideological differences between the two, but at the same time, again, there were a number of areas in which they agreed, and they were non-violence, purity of means to achieve an end. So these were the areas on which they agreed. Now, in the last unit, we will be discussing Gandhi and his relationship with the left in India. Now, communists in India, they consisted of basically three strands. The first one was the radical humanists. They were led by M.N. Roy. Second was Indian communists, who were led by S.A. Dange. And the third one were the democratic socialists, who were led by Dr. Ram Manohar Lohia. Now, M.N. Roy and Gandhi, they shared a special relationship. Roy was critical of Gandhi's economic ideas. He criticized Gandhi's concept of trusteeship, and he said, basically he believed that the rich would not sacrifice their own interest for the poor. So this is why the idea of trusteeship would not succeed. And he did not also agree on the use of machines with Gandhi because Roy believed that machines will take India towards economic prosperity. But at the same time, he also praised Gandhi for mobilizing people around India for the cause of freedom and also creating political awareness among them. Both of them, Roy and Gandhi, they believed in morality. They also believed in the idea of decentralization of political power and curbing state power by empowering the people. So these were the areas on which they agreed. The second relationship within the left was between Gandhi and S.A. Dange. Now, Dange considered Gandhi as his teacher. He too was critical of Gandhi's idea of trusteeship, basically because he too believed that capitalists would not accept it. Because any idea which does not respect the core areas of capitalists would not be, any idea that does harm to the capitalists would not be accepted by the capitalists. So this is why Dange criticized the idea of trusteeship of Gandhi, and his insistence on spinning wheel and village industry was misplaced. This is what Dange said, that as people wanted greater production and higher living standards. So he basically said that people will not accept this idea of spinning wheel and staying in an ancient type of economy because they want prosperity and they want higher living standards, and they will accept the use of technology and machines instead of spinning wheel. The types of means, another difference between the two was that Dange used to say the type of means that you use against an opponent, they are decided by the nature of the opponent. If the opponent is an aggressor or who is somebody who uses violence, so that means we can use violence against the opponent. So the point was that nature of one's opponent and the methods used by the opponent will determine what type of means are to be used against an opponent. Now, he also criticized Gandhi. The relationship was if you see the relationship between Gandhi and Dange, it was basically, it mirrors the relationship between M.N. Roy and Gandhi in the sense that both Roy and Dange did criticize Gandhi, but at the same time they recognized that Gandhi's contribution was immense to Indian freedom struggle. The last ideologue of democratic socialism was led by Lohia, and Lohia argued that Gandhi made people aware of their rights, and it was a bigger achievement than winning Swaraj for India. So even Lohia was very, very appreciative of Gandhi's efforts as Gandhi aroused a feeling of consciousness within the people of India. Gandhi gave the weapon of satyagraha to ordinary Indians to fight the oppressive British. This is what was recognized by Lohia. But at the same time, there were certain differences between the two. The first one was the idea of change of heart. As Gandhi used to say that by using his methods, you can change the heart of somebody, but Lohia said that you can change the heart of an individual, but you cannot change the heart of an institution like a state, and that too an institution which is very, very aggressive and which is ready to use very high-handed approach against you. So it is almost impossible to change the nature of an institution. Another point was that Lohia did not reject the role of machines and technology in India's economic progress, unlike Gandhi, and because people wanted a better living standard, and this is why they will embrace the machines and the technology. The last, if one has to summarize the interactions between Gandhi and the left, then one can say that there was healthy exchange of ideas between Gandhi and the left, and both of them they learned a lot from each other. This was sort of a give and take relationship. So this is what we have discussed, and this is the end of the MGP 1001 course. Thank you.